Let's start off with talking a little bit about more of what you guys do, because you told me right before we hit the record button, your daughter works with you. And she does the sell side, you do the buy side. How did that come about? How did you end up becoming a family-run business?
Well, Jessica's worked with me since
Mm.
2018, and I've done a lot of work for buyers. In fact, my first book out now, about a dozen years, is titled "Buying a Business That Makes You Rich."
Mm-hmm.
Toss your job, to, toss your job, not the dice, and it's aimed at the individual buyer, the corporate executive that says, "I've had enough of the corporate world," or the corporate world says, "We've had enough of you." Then they've got the skills, and they've been able over the years to pick up experience managing people, processes, money, and most importantly, and we hope most importantly, enthusiasm, which is culture. And it's not quite I do one and she does the other. It's blended, but she decided after a while that she preferred to work with on the sell side more than the buy side.
Mm-hmm.
And we set up this separate company so she could have some equity, and we target the lower little market deals of 5 to about 15 million. We don't do main street businesses, and we don't want to work really the true investment bankers work. They've got more resources than we do, and we want to bring a professional touch to that, very professional touch to that market. If the seller doesn't like and trust the buyer, not going to trust their company and their people to him or her. And if the same thing goes the other way, if a buyer doesn't feel warm fuzzies about the seller, says, something's off here. And if I feel something's off, it's not going to get better. It's time to say pass.
That's something a lot of people do miss. We talk about this a lot on the show, and I always tell people there are two areas in the world that if you got or two skills in the world, if you got these two skills down really well, you could write your ticket in any realm. And the first of those two skills is building deep rapport with other human beings. If you can get on the phone or a Zoom call and really get to know somebody and build a rapport with them, you're ahead. The second one is enrolling people into your vision, being able to create a culture and a movement, and to lead people towards a direction. If you can build rapport, then and then create a movement, you can do almost anything.
Yeah, it's good advice.
Talk about the different types of businesses that you've worked with. Are there any type of businesses you just don't work with, or you do the full gamut of industrial, manufacturing, and home services, the whole nine yards, or is there some area that your expertise is?
No, we're generalists. I use the analogy of a CPA.
Mm-hmm.
CPA can do taxes for almost every business. Maybe there's a specialty business you need an industry expert, but
Mm-hmm.
taxes are taxes, financial statements are financial statements. What someone does to help a client buy or sell a business crosses industry lines. We choose not to work with professionals like doctors, dentists. We don't do well based on size. We're looking at companies that are of a decent size that you have a better chance of getting rid of owner dependency. So, we're not going to compete with the brokers selling the deli, the dry cleaner, the one-off restaurant, that type of thing.
It's tough for those too, for those doctors and dentists and stuff like that, because they're so dependent upon the advisor, right? I know we used it. I have allergies, really bad allergies. From the time I was tiny, probably 8 or 9 years old, until I was in my 20s, we went to Dr. Ralston until he retired, right? But the day he retired, we found an office closer to where we lived because we were driving 25, 30 miles into town to go to him because that's who we always went to.
Yeah.
He's the guy. My dad had a form of he had thyroid cancer, and he was the ear, nose, and throat specialist that I identified that and saved his life. So he was one of those guys who he's just until he retired. That's who we went to. But once he retired, we didn't go to his office, and whoever he sold it to or whatever his business went to, we did some referrals and found somebody else, right?
And that's why I've seen deals in those spaces, whether it's accounting or medical things, and a lot of it is tied to continuing revenue. That people aren't going to just go to another one because it's closer, because my buddy's not there anymore, or someone bought it and raised the rates, which is what's going on with veterinarians. I know our vets, the founders. So son took it over, second generation, sold it in a roll up, and the people are great. Definitely the prices have gone up, etc.
That said, the that's not a bad thing in a lot of cases because you do get to build a rapport that way, right?
You
One of
do.
the biggest flaws I see with new guys getting into the space wanting to buy a company is they get on there and within 3 minutes they're starting to ask for financials. And
Yeah. Believe me, that's not new, but it's becoming more and more prevalent. It's becoming more prevalent as we've seen. Yeah, let's just face it. So many colleges or universities are teaching acquisitions, entrepreneurship through acquisitions,
mhm.
and there there should be criteria for buying or qualifications for buying a business uh, that sellers should have, and it's not just money. I have seen so many deals. In fact, one uh, a week or so ago, a past client, I helped him buy 5 companies. He's now on number 7 or 8. He got a bolt-on acquisition, and he said, "There were multiple offers. I was the lowest, and I got it because they said I was the best buyer." So
Right.
it's building that relationship and talking about what you can do, not just, "Hey, I took a class, and I wanna buy a business." And, you don't have, as I mentioned before, don't if you don't have that experience managing people, processes, money, and enthusiasm, uh, maybe you should get it.
Let's go into like kind of what's happening in right now, right? Let's just kind of jump from where we're talking about. Let's talk about the current economic and political environment and some of the uncertainty that some of the business sellers and even business buyers might have about what's happening. What's your gut feel on all this?
I've been through it before, and I just told a couple clients, in the last few days, you know, simply this too will pass. I
Mm,
mean, we had COVID, we had the real estate collapse, the Great Recession in like '09 or so.
yep.
Yeah, 9/11. We've gone through it. We're in the spring of 2025 now. You're right. Uncertainty is the word. I saw a poll yesterday that said the number one word that people pick when describing the current administration is what's going on is chaos. There's chaos, there's uncertainty, and a lot of people just don't know what to do. There is worry. I think there are owners who would like to sell or just saying, are they gonna discount it because of what's going on? If I'm not desperate to sell? And let's face it, I heard on one of your other podcasts, someone said most businesses are sold because 'cause they're distressed, divorce, death, something like that. I say no. I say most businesses are sold when there's burnout, retirement, something happens in the personal life. But in these cases, if you got a business and you're making $1 million a year, and you're saying,
Mhm.
well, the buyer's going to try to discount it because of what's going on with tariffs and uncertainty and all of that. I'll hang on to it for a little while. I'm still making $1 million a year. And on the buy side, yes, some people have backed out. Uh, not not surprisingly. I think there's still a lot of buyers out there. I know there are some that are saying, well, if the seller wants to sell now with what's going on, they're going to take a lower price. Not necessarily. One of the true rules of business buying and selling is the seller controls the deal if it's a good business. Mature, profitable, they control it. The buyer controls the deal if it's a bad business. And that's why when you hear statistics and people go, well, 80 or 90% of, businesses never sell, it's because they're not worth buying. But the ones worth buying definitely sell. A lot of it is experience that you have and I have is
Mhm.
knowing what questions to ask potential buyers and potential sellers. For sellers, I always start with things like, have you talked to a financial advisor to see what, basically, if you can give them an estimate of what it might be worth, and you can't do that. You
Mhm.
can't tell what the market's going to do, but whether you say it's worth 2 million, 4 million, 6 million range what does your advisor say about that? Uh, what are you going to do? And buyers should be asking that of sellers. What are you going to do? I know you want to sell, but what are you going to do? And if they have a good answer, that's great. If they say, well, I'll figure it out, they're going to get seller remorse. The answer is, oh, I'm going to retire, does your spouse want you around 24/7? And with buyers, it's the things you mentioned. What have you done? Why do you want to do this? Oh, what kind of skills do you have? Have you managed people? Have you had budgetary responsibility? Things like that. Make them aware. This is going to take a year or two. We've been lucky on the buyer side. We've had just a few times over the years where someone finds and buys something in 6 months or less, but it's so rare. Something fell in their lap in month one, month two, and they got the deal done. So you talked about home buying. There's I don't know if you've seen it, but Progressive Insurance has a commercial, and it's about these people buy the new house, and someone comes up and says, "Oh, I'm replacing the hot water heater that's not good," and the next one is, "Here's your supply of fertilizer to keep your lawn green," and then Progressive says, "Well, you won't have to do that with us," but points in back, and there's a line of about 15 people with all the things the house needs.
Right.
And if you do your due diligence, you're not in that trap of here's what's needed. And if you're smart enough to say, I'm going to do exactly what the seller has been doing till I figure it out.
That's been a
And
recurring conversation here on the show is, especially for new buyers and stuff. They say, well, how fast should I make changes? Like, you shouldn't. First 60 days, you should just sit there and observe everything the way it was running. As a matter of fact, first 60 to 90 days, I highly recommend you just try to run it exactly how the other guy ran it and get that down and figure out how he ran it that way. Sometimes figure out why they run it that way. And then the first group of changes you should make is you should interview every single employee there and said, if you can change one or two things that make this company better, what would you change? And you compare that list to your list. And wherever they match, you can start to tackle some of those things because you have employee buy-in. That's how you build rapport with those guys, right? That's how you build rapport with the existing employees is you start making some of the changes they've been wanting for years. And then you can, once you get that done, you can start making the suggestions. Well, it looks like I think I need these done too. What are some of the takeaways you want people to know after hearing what we spoke today? Of
well, I
you,
think, okay, go ahead.
of what you do, of the market. What would you want people to walk away knowing? 2 or 3 takeaways.
Okay. For the right person with that entrepreneurial spirit who is not a creator to start something from scratch. And again, they have those skills, managing people, processes, money, and enthusiasm. It's a great thing. It is hard work to find one. It is hard work to get into the business and operating it. And you can't just say, I'm going to work on the business from day one, because you don't know what that means if you don't know what's going on in the business. But in my latest book, Exit, Risk, Risk, and More Money, there's a couple chapters that apply. Well, most of it applies to buyers also. But the second chapter is, about maybe it's not about it. There's more than just the numbers, that kind of thing. And it's just concentrate on the customers, the landlord, the lease situation, the suppliers, the IT, your key employees, et cetera, et cetera. Are they keeping good, great employees, or is there a lot of turnover kind of thing? But the third chapter is maybe it is about the numbers, and everyone goes to the numbers first. Those other things tell you where the numbers are going. And if you're buying a small business, just realize you are going to be facing small business accounting. It is not GAAP. It is not consistent. It has a lot of not nefarious, but just sloppiness.
I use the word creative.
Yeah, the accountant's really a bookkeeper. The bookkeeper is really a data entry person, and the owner gives them instructions but doesn't know a thing about debits and credits or anything else. And get over that, sort it out, and realize if they're saying this business makes, I don't care if it's $100 or $1 million or anything else, but half of it is adding back things that are non-essential personal expenses. You might want to put your skeptical glasses on and say, I don't think so.